A hot, medium white mocha, one extra pump, whipped cream, and make sure the milk is not too hot. If he's feeling a little spicy, especially if it's test day, he might get a size larger and a few extra shots. This is the main drink in order of a gentleman named Sam Tanner. He studied communications and humanities here, was an eloquent writer, worked at a grocery shop, and I can even tell you he loved his job at the library. Not the one here, a local one. This was the first name and drink I ever memorized. And in fact, Samuel and I have gone on to take many classes together. But the point about this, these were the first steps to community. I bet you all are wondering, how can coffee even begin to heal communities? It hardly heals my lack of sleep. I have to start my day with 400 milligrams of caffeine. 1 second, please. Delicious, right? So my point is, coffee is a tool that we can use to heal communities. And it just started with 1 cup of coffee, and now I'm here. But let's talk back about the first problem that we have to face here. It's a sense of belonging. We all lack it. Many of us lack it. For those out there who do have that sense of belonging lacking in the moment, especially in this room, that's valid, you know? But I will be the first one to say that you do belong. You're here under one cause right now, and it's being under the same roof. And that in itself is a beginning step to building community. Y'all may know your C partner, you may not, you may be here alone, but the point I'm trying to talk about here is that we are here under one cause, and we are beginning to build that connection with each other. I could talk about what tears communities apart, from the institutions we learn in, to the police, to the pandemic, to social media and being quirky, but what does that matter, right? It's those first steps in that initiative that we take that creates all the difference. In sociology, we have this concept about microcultures and all these little people in these subsects upon different groups, upon different identities that stay separate. And we see that here, we see that out in the community around this institution, we see it every day. But those beginning steps into taking and uniting these people and interconnectivity are going to be the first steps that we need to create community. And it all starts with a cup of coffee. I've learned 4 important lessons in working at our local coffee shop here. And I will state the first one, and it's real easy. Say hi. Hello. That's it. Research indicates that giving a hug or giving a hello, a hi, a good morning, and if you're feeling a little spicy, a kiss, is how you start your days off. That's how you begin that first initial step in the connection. It's initiative. It's taking that first step into getting to know one another. I think often about how we engage students and how we begin to even engage one another. And through initiative and giving the coffee is the first step, because when we're, as a barista, we're taught to make that nonverbal contact with someone, stare them down and make eye contact, and just keep on looking at that person until their drink is here. But it makes people a little uncomfy. But there's a little beauty in this moment, because there's a moment that we get to share, in this exclusive moment, in which there's a conversation within one glance. But there's more to that. It feels good to be seen, and that's the first step. Yeah, it's saying hi, is it? But you know what that does to someone? It helps them feel seen. And so, with that being said, I think of this quote, roughly paraphrased by Maya Angelou, talking about how people will continually forget who we are and what we did, but it's how we made them feel that continues on with them in their legacy. Those are the first steps. The second step gets a little bit more difficult. We personalize and not individualize. To personalize, we have to make sure we know someone. How many of y'all like to have your name known when someone calls out, right? Raise your hands, that's all right. How many of you like to have your name known when you have your order called out, when someone addresses you? Right. And so that's the first step as a barista that you're taught, is to personalize, say hi, get to know someone. I think about an older gentleman named Ed. Ed was our former college dean of education, and it took me 2 weeks to memorize his name, but he would come in and order a large blonde roast coffee and make sure that there is half an inch of cream every time, consistently. And it was his order that I memorized first and his name after. But the second I started to memorize his name, he reciprocated it back. And I'll say, Nevan's kind of a hard name to learn, but it took him 2 days. So we've talked about initiative, right? And that initiative and saying hi, and that initiative and personalizing, and getting to know someone's order and getting to know someone's name. It's intimate, it's special. But the next step gets a little bit more difficult after that. Collisions. I want y'all to consider this. Collisions. And not running into one another, though that's sometimes how it starts. It means serendipitous encounters with another individual. That's coined by Tony Heish, CEO of Zappos. Start running into people. Usually metaphorically, I don't encourage you to hit each other, but I will say it is these collisions that are the lifeblood to community. After we take the steps to personalize and get to know each other and create intimate moments, we have to continue doing it. And so how do we do that? Going out of our way and meeting them halfway. A perfect example is Katie. Katie used to come in every morning, roughly around 8 a.m., unless she was running late to work, and she'd order a grande cold brew with sweet cream. And then, if we're on Halloween, a little bit of cinnamon. Katie is now my boss. It was through those experiences that I created between the personalization, the saying hello, and now continuing to bother Katie every day to make sure she gets her drink, that got me the job I'm in now currently. Along with that, there's the fourth and final step, which is the most difficult. Be yourself. How often do we invalidate ourselves and continue to try to fit into a mold? Often enough. There are so many expectations placed upon us, whether we're students, staff, faculty, admin, community members. It's always there. Be genuine. People never forget that. I talked earlier about these exclusive moments and being sure that you stay true to who you are and who you're talking to, but people don't forget the emotions that you're conveying, and you can't be yourself if you're fitting into someone else's mold. Something I've learned across our campus is it's those little details in being ourselves that people don't forget. It's the way that I throw shaken espressos up in the air when I'm talking to people, or the way I look someone in the eye and make them a wee bit uncomfortable. It's the way that I continue to run into these students off of campus. It's the little details in the way that Sam liked his drink an extra size larger on test day, the way that John would get an extra breakfast sandwich for his girlfriend to make sure she was fed for the day, or the way that Daniel liked chai instead of coffee because it gives him headaches. But it's those little details that continue to bring people together, and we can take a moment to take them from individuals and bring them into the collective. It's individualism that separates us. That's why we have personalization. Make someone feel special in that role that they're in, but don't separate them from you. It's all right to be a little quirky, just not too much. And so, with that being said, those are the 4 steps to talking to someone. It all starts with a greeting, a simple hello, a little initiative. Then we get into the personalization and getting to know one another, getting to know their name, and isn't that a part of basic human interaction already? And start colliding with people. Take a few steps, run into someone, metaphorically, and keep on talking to them and creating these experiences in which they feel like they belong. It makes you feel like you belong. And the last step is just be yourself. And easier said than done for many of us, but it's a journey that we're all taking at different steps. But once we start on that journey, it will influence the way that we connect to others. I've had the privilege in working in this coffee shop and giving coffee to all the students here to watch freshmen become seniors. I've got to watch 2 customers in love begin to get married and become some of my close friends. I've had the pleasure to watch people that I would have never talked to in a million years become some of my closest friends. And to date, I'm grateful for it. Bold of me to assume that it's me on campus who brings everyone together, or that one simple tool of coffee is what brings someone into the collective. Because in part that's true. That was my tool. All of you have your own separate tools and your own ways of bringing people together and our own ways of interconnecting and relating. But I will say a community requires good action and deliberation. You got to meet someone halfway to make sure that they feel comfortable in your community. A community is made up of the people who are here. A community is made up of the people that are in it. And therefore today, this goes to everyone who continues to contribute to make positive change in the lives we have yet to meet.